the Shoemaker and the Kind Elves. Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village nestled between rolling green hills, there lived an old shoemaker named Thomas. He had spent his entire life crafting the finest shoes. But as he grew older, his hands became shaky and his eyesight was not as sharp as before. He worked tirelessly, yet he struggled to make ends meet. Thomas lived in a humble cottage with his kind-hearted wife, Martha. They had little money, but their hearts were full of love and kindness. Each night, Thomas would set out the leather he could afford, hoping to make shoes the next morning. But one night, something magical happened. One evening, Thomas laid out the last piece of fine leather he had, saying a silent prayer that he could craft a pair of shoes good enough to sell at the market. Exhausted, he and Martha went to bed, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. The next morning, when Thomas stepped into his workshop, his eyes widened in astonishment. Right there on his workbench sat a beautiful pair of shoes. The stitches were perfect, the leather polished, and the design exquisite. He had never seen such craftsmanship in his life. Martha gasped in delight. "Thomas, these shoes are remarkable, but who could have made them?" Thomas scratched his head. "I don't know, dear, but I must take them to the market at once." That very day, the shoes sold for a great price, allowing Thomas to buy more leather. That night, he laid out another piece and, once again, found another perfect pair in the morning. Night after night, the mysterious magic continued. Beautiful shoes appeared on Thomas's workbench without him lifting a finger. Soon his little shop became famous. Nobles and villagers alike came from far and wide to purchase his fine footwear. Grateful but puzzled, Thomas and Martha decided to uncover the mystery. One cold winter's night, they stayed awake and hid behind the curtain in the workshop. As the clock struck midnight, the door creaked open, and in tiptoed tiny figures, elves. They were no taller than a child's knee, dressed in ragged clothes, their nimble fingers working swiftly. With incredible speed, they cut, stitched, and polished until yet another perfect pair of shoes was ready. Thomas and Martha watched in wonder, their hearts swelling with gratitude. "These kind little elves have been helping us all along," Martha whispered, "but look at their clothes. They are worn and tattered." The next day, Thomas and Martha decided to return the kindness. Martha stitched tiny coats, shirts, and trousers, while Thomas crafted the smallest, finest shoes he had ever made. That evening, instead of laying out leather, they placed the tiny clothes and shoes on the workbench. At midnight, the elves returned. They climbed onto the table expecting to work, but instead they found the wonderful gifts waiting for them. Their eyes sparkled with joy. They dressed in their new clothes, dancing and twirling with glee. One of the elves chuckled. "We have helped the shoemaker, and now he has helped us. Our work here is done." With a final happy leap, the elves disappeared into the night, never to return. But Thomas and Martha never forgot their kindness. Thanks to the elves, their shop continued to flourish, and they always remembered to spread kindness and generosity to others, just as the elves had done for them. And so, Thomas and Martha lived happily ever after in their warm little shop filled with love, gratitude, and the finest shoes in all the land. The end.